Hi, and welcome to Amy and Sarah. My name is Amy Bartel, and I met Sarah Argus maybe 10 years ago at SUNY Oswego, where I teach illustration and graphic design. And Sarah was a student of mine, and we have maintained a connection that has encompassed design and life and art and embracing entirely this idea of collaboration. So here's what we do. We create images back and forth, and it's kind of like chess. Sarah started our first image of this series, and she sent me an image in Photoshop. And the rules are that you get to take your turn by doing whatever you think is next or whatever you think makes sense for the image as you build it, building it play by play. So she sent me the first image of the first piece. I responded to it, sent it back. She sent it back. I sent it back. And there's a lovely rhythm to the back and forth, but there's also a magical sense of surprise. I trust Sarah entirely artistically. Her instincts are spot on. I think she trusts me similarly, but there's also a freedom in letting go, because you can't be too attached to what you've done or what you'll see returned. One of the rules of our engagement, so to speak, is that you have permission to do whatever it is you see that needs to be done. So there's this Buddhist practice of practicing detachment. You know, it's not about not loving something. It's in fact about not holding anything too firmly. And that's the basis of this collaboration, is about trusting someone to play with you, to work with you, to create something beautiful that didn't exist before you tried to create it. But it's also been a way to connect, especially during this global pandemic. The first time Sarah and I collaborated was in 2014, when Sarah was just getting established in New York. And we did a series of maps together. And here we are 6 years later, and we are working through this particular series based on individual inspirations. So far we have finished one piece. We're working on our second piece. And the idea is that whoever starts the piece simply starts with an image or idea that is inspiring to them in some way. I live in Syracuse, New York. I work in Oswego, New York. Sarah lives in Brooklyn, which has been at the heart of the story of New York City in terms of the pandemic and the crisis. Certainly we've all been affected, but it's been really helpful, lovely, heartbreaking, and ultimately soul searching to know and love somebody over the period of time that I have known and loved Sarah, but also to make art at a time that nothing makes sense, to make sense of things that don't make sense, to have the gift of the ability to put an image where no words can exist. That's pretty powerful. And the collaboration, I think, is important because it's intergenerational. It is timeless and yet somehow timely, as we're finding new ways to connect and finding out the importance of what the individual connection is all about. Our lives have slowed down in huge ways as they speed up in ways that we can't quite wrap our head around. The losses are so big, the gains are so big in terms of what you realize is important. And so through this collaboration, I've realized that it's important to find a thread to keep expressing some inner sense of urgency about the world, an inner sense of urgency about love winning, an inner sense of urgency about how we persist and resist and persevere. And somehow beauty rises up through that, like those weeds through the cracks in the cement. You know, it just happens if we are present for it. And sometimes we are. And so that brings you a little bit further into Amy and Sarah. We send work back and forth. We meet in Zoom. We have a Google shared file. We both work in Photoshop, and we keep going. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the work, and mostly what Sarah and I both think is interesting about this, and we both hope you get a little something out of, is the idea of working together for something bigger and letting go of whatever it is you think the outcome should be in service of something that could surprise you even more. Bye for now.